Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we cut through the noise, stack up the research, and hand you the strategic insight you need to move forward.
And today we are diving into a book that, while it's not new, it remains maybe the most critical foundational text on modern innovation. Eric Ries' The Lean Startup.
That's right. And for you, the listener, whether you're a founder trying to survive and grow, or a manager inside a big company trying to innovate, you all share one fundamental problem.
Extreme uncertainty.
Exactly. And this framework, it really provides a kind of scientific toolkit to navigate that uncertainty in a systematic way.
Yeah, so our mission today is to unpack that toolkit. We're going to cover how you redefine progress when everything feels chaotic, the real power of minimum effort, and this is the big one, how to measure what truly matters.
You don't waste time, money, or frankly, your own dedication. So let's start with, I think, the ultimate tragedy in business, because it happens way too often.
Yeah.
Successfully building a great product that absolutely nobody wants.
That is the ultimate waste. It's just a waste of human capital, of resources. The source material shares this really painful story from the early days of e-learning about a system called Instruct.com.
And the founders, they did everything by the old playbook, right? They spent almost a year just dedicated to development, making sure the tool was state-of-the-art.
Right. Robust architecture, tons of content. They even made huge personal sacrifices. At one point, one of them traded a car for a scooter just to save money on gas. They just kept adding features they thought the market needed.
And by every traditional measure, they were making progress. Progress was, features completed, stable code.
But when they finally launched that beautifully engineered product, the result was, well, it was devastating. They made 2 small sales.
2. After a year of that kind of sacrifice, it's just shocking how much work went in, only to find out the basic idea was wrong.
And that's a perfect illustration of why traditional management methods just don't work for innovators. Planning, forecasting, that all works great in a stable, predictable environment where you know your customers.
But innovation isn't like that. It's a fog of war. You don't know who your customers are, what they really value, or even what the product should be.
This is where the lean philosophy comes in. It's inspired by lean manufacturing, but it makes one crucial pivot. In a factory, the goal is efficient production of goods.
Right.
In innovation, the goal shifts completely to generating something called validated learning.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This shift from efficiency to learning, what does that actually look like day to day? How do you even measure learning?
It's a total mindset shift. The main question becomes, if we're building something nobody wants, who cares if we do it on time and on budget? The real unit of progress isn't code or features anymore, it's learning.
And this isn't just like vague feedback, it's real evidence.
Exactly. Demonstrable proof that a specific action you took led to a specific change in customer behavior.
So if learning is the goal, you have to figure out the riskiest things you need to learn first. These are the so-called acts of faith.
Yep, the most dangerous assumptions your whole business plan is resting on. And we can boil them down to 2 big ones. First is the value hypothesis.
Does this thing actually create value for customers? Will they use it?
Yeah.
Will they pay for it?
And second, the growth hypothesis. How will new customers find out about this product and adopt it? If either of those is false, you're heading straight for that Instruct.com cliff.
Which is where the minimum viable product, or MVP, comes in. This is how you test those beliefs quickly.
Right, and this is where that minimum effort idea is so important. An MVP isn't the smallest product you can imagine. It is the absolute fastest way to go through the build, measure, learn cycle with the least amount of effort.
So you're just ruthlessly cutting out waste. Any extra feature, any bit of design polish that isn't required to start that learning process.
It's waste, pure and simple.
Let's talk about some real examples, because the best MVPs often look surprisingly, inefficient at first. Take Zappos.
A classic. The founder, Nick Swinmurn, wanted to test this crazy idea that people would buy shoes online.
Which at the time seemed absurd. You'd think he'd need a huge website, a warehouse.
He did the complete opposite. He literally went to local shoe stores, took pictures of their shoes, and posted them online. And only after a customer bought a pair.
Then he went and bought them himself.
He went and bought them at full retail price and shipped them out.
That seems so manual and inefficient. How is that not a waste?
Because the goal wasn't to build a perfect supply chain. The goal was to learn. To validate that one, single hypothesis. Will people pay for shoes they've only seen on a screen? That clunky manual process gave him real data on customer demand before he built anything complex.
That makes perfect sense. The inefficiency was the cost of learning, not a sign of a bad product.
Okay, so what about Dropbox? Their software was super complex.
Yeah, their file syncing tech was so complicated it would take years just to build a basic version to test.
So what did they do?
Instead of coding, they made a simple 3-minute video MVP. It just showed how the product would work, the magic of it all. And they targeted it at early tech adopters.
And the result? It was immediate. Their beta waiting list jumped from 5,000 people to 75,000, literally overnight.
Wow. So they validated both their value and their growth hypothesis without writing all that complex code.
Exactly. And there's one more type, the concierge MVP. Food on the table is a great example. Today, it's this sophisticated service using algorithms for meal plans.
How do you start an algorithm business without an algorithm?
You do it all by hand. They started by serving a single customer. The CEO and VP of product would personally go collect supermarket flyers, create a meal plan, and deliver it.
That sounds exhausting.
It was, but that hands-on service forced them to learn directly from the customer. They learned about dietary restrictions, store preferences, all the messy real-world stuff you need to know before you try to automate it.
And that focus on real customer behavior leads us right to the next discipline, measurement. Because once you start learning, you have to make sure you're not just fooling yourself with the data.
Oh, absolutely. And the number one way entrepreneurs fool themselves is with vanity metrics. The classic example from the book is IMVU. They had this graph of their total registered users.
A beautiful hockey stick curve going up and to the right. Looks amazing.
Over 100,000 registered users. It gives you this false sense of security, this feeling that your growth engine is working perfectly.
But it's misleading.
Deeply misleading because it hides whether your product improvements are actually changing future customer behavior. It doesn't tell you what to do next.
So how do you avoid that trap?
You have to switch to actionable metrics. And these have to have three qualities, what Ries calls the 3 A's. First, they have to be actionable.
Meaning they show a clear cause and effect.
Yeah.
We did X and Y happened.
Exactly. Second, they have to be accessible, simple enough for the whole team to understand. And third, they have to be auditable. You have to be able to trace the data back to real people.
And the key tool for this is cohort analysis.
Yes. Instead of looking at the big cumulative numbers, you break your customers down into groups or cohorts based on when they signed up. You're looking at each group's behavior independently.
And this is where the truth came out for IMVU, right?
This is where it got painful. They sliced the data by month and discovered that even though total users were growing, the conversion rate for each new group of customers was stuck, flat, at a pathetic 1%.
So all the new features, all the improvements, they were making a difference to new users.
None at all. The engine was running, but their efforts to improve it were doing absolutely nothing. The cohort data proved their strategy was fundamentally broken, no matter how good the big graph looked.
That kind of brutal honesty forces the hardest decision an innovator has to make: pivot or persevere.
And the real danger here is what he calls the land of the walking dead. It's when you have just enough success to survive, but not enough to actually grow or meet your goals. You're just stuck, burning through energy and resources.
There's a case study about a founder named David Benetti from a company called Vodazin. He was fantastic at optimization. He got his user registration rates from something like 5% all the way up to 90%.
Huge improvements. But when he looked at his core metrics for growth retention and recommendation, they were totally flat, stuck at around 8% and 6%.
So he was getting more people in the front door, but the bucket was still just as leaky.
Exactly. And because he had those clear, actionable metrics from the start, he had to accept that just optimizing wasn't going to fix the core problem. A major change, a pivot, was necessary.
And what's interesting is that even his failures weren't a waste. Each cycle, he got faster.
Much faster. His MVP cycle time shrank from 8 months to 4, then 3, then just 1 month. He was accelerating his learning, which made that pivot much less costly when it finally happened.
And a pivot isn't just a small tweak, it's a structural change, like a zoom-in pivot, where one feature becomes the whole product.
Or a platform pivot. Wealthfront is a great example. They started as an online investment game called Kaching.
A game.
Yeah, the idea was to find talented amateur investors. They got 450,000 players, a massive vanity metric success, but the core business model failed. Only 7 players actually qualified to manage real money.
So they pivoted.
They pivoted the entire platform. They abandoned the game but kept the core technology they'd built, the part that evaluated fund managers, and repurposed it to serve high net worth individuals directly. Different market, different product, same core tech.
You know, all this speed and discipline sounds great for startups, But how does this apply inside a huge company? Which brings us to the idea of small batches.
It's the same principle. If you work on a massive batch of features for 6 months and the first one fails with customers, you've just wasted all the effort on the rest of them.
Hmm.
Small batches let you find flaws fast and minimize that waste.
And Intuit, the company that makes QuickBooks and TurboTax, learned this the hard way.
Oh, yeah. They used the old waterfall method, and it led to what they called achieving failure. They released a new online banking service that was 4 to 5 times slower than the old one. It was a disaster.
And it took them 9 months to fix it.
9 months. The fix was a huge cultural shift. They moved to small, cross-functional teams that were empowered to test and deploy changes constantly.
And what does that look like now?
Today, some TurboTax teams run up to 70 different tests a week during tax season. But that requires a huge commitment from leadership to build the systems that allow for that kind of speed.
Which is often done through continuous deployment, right? Releasing new versions multiple times a day. That sounds terrifying from a quality perspective.
Well, it would be, except it relies on a kind of automated immune system of tests. If any change, technical or commercial, causes an error or hurts a key metric, the system automatically rolls it back. Quality isn't sacrificed for speed, it's enforced by automation.
Okay, so when failures do happen, because they always will, you need a way to diagnose them without pointing fingers. This is the 5 whys.
Right. It's a simple but powerful technique. If a server crashes, you don't ask, who did this? You ask, why did the server crash? And then why did that happen? 5 times until you get to the root cause.
It's about fixing the process, not blaming the person.
Exactly. The 5 whys almost always reveals that the root cause isn't a bad person, it's a bad process. And by fixing the process, you fix the problem for good, so the next person doesn't make the same mistake.
So this whole approach, systematic testing, minimizing waste, maximizing learning, it really secures long-term value no matter how big your company is.
And when you look across all this, the big philosophical shift is just unmistakable. In our economy today, our ability to build almost anything we can imagine has completely outpaced our ability to know what we should be building.
That's a powerful thought. The big question is no longer, can it be built?
Because the answer is almost always yes. The critical strategic question for every single leader, for every team, is now, should it be built? And that shift in focus, that's everything.
A perfect place to leave you to reflect on your own projects and your own assumptions. We really encourage you to take this systematic, scientific approach and apply it to whatever uncertainty you're facing.
And if you want to dive deeper into all the tools and case studies, you can find great resources at theleanstartup.com. Or for our listeners in Brazil, the official community is at theleanstartup-brazil.com.br.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time. 2 seconds of silence.